Hello and welcome. This is the 5th episode of the Enlightened Illumineers podcast. If you'd like to learn the finer details about the new trading card game called Disney Lorcana, be up to date with the latest news and meta eventually when we get there, this is the podcast for you. I am your host, Trey. Online, you might also know me as Cabled. In this episode, I'll go over the rules, my initial thoughts about gameplay, about 25 out of the 50 new revealed cards, and the Glimmer Gallery section going over Tangled, or more specifically, the Pascal Rapunzel's companion card. So I will say that was a very unfortunate and poor timing on my part to have 11-day vacation in the UK while Lorcana decides to actually drop the rules. Now, I'm not complaining at all, as I had an amazing time with Brittany, but it is unfortunate that when things do release right then and there, that's the best time to capitalize on making content, and I just wasn't able to do that. I will go over just briefly our trip in the UK. The first 5 or 6 days, we were up in Scotland, and majority of the time was in Isle of Skye, Scotland, and that place is just very beautiful. The mountains are great, the beaches are awesome, and they have some very nice, like, fairy garden-esque areas that there's a lot of mythological lore about fairies in there. The second half of the trip was down in London, and I actually drove almost over 1,500 miles in the UK, driving up in Scotland down towards London and visiting all the castles and whatnot. Like I said, the second half was in London, and that was going to be the time I was playing Pokemon at the EUIC, but my run for Pokemon just ran very short. I started 2-0, and I was playing Lost Zone box with a few V-tackers. Like I said, I started 2-0, and I lost one round due to a poor matchup and a very big misplay on my part. Then we went on the lunch, and then I just started doing bad and bad after that. I wasn't even playing bad. There was maybe a couple minor mistakes, but they weren't game-deciding mistakes. My rounds 4 and 5, literally exactly the same, where game 1, I just had completely unplayable hand, just kind of like draw pass, or I would do some stuff and then I just wouldn't develop my board at all. And then game 2, for each round, there was a very close game, but I was able to win it out. And then game 3, it was coming down to like, I need to stall one more turn to stop my opponent from winning, or I need to win that turn, and I whiffed getting like one of 2 pieces from the deck out of like a 10-card deck. Then comes to my round 6 opponent. We were having a very good back and forth. I did make a misplay to pretty much cost me the win, and we ended up being a tie. There are specific rules with Pokemon about asking your opponent, like, can I have this win, or can I keep playing, or whatnot. There's no, like, can you give me the win, or anything like that. Like, that's just against the rule. But I did ask my opponent, do you want to keep playing or not? And my opponent all they said was just, yes, I want to keep playing. And so I told them, okay, since we got the tie, and none of us can really get points after this tie, I will give you the win, and I'm done playing so that you can keep going if you really wanted to keep playing. And then the guy just like kind of not broke down, but the guy was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm from Chile. I am trying to get my world's invite, and this is great. And so I felt good for that guy. But unfortunately, he lost one more game and ended up with a 5-4 record and got like 400th place. But if they were able to win out, they could have easily got top 256 to get about 40 points or 60 points. I forget what it is for Pokemon International Championships. It was very unfortunate, but I'm not too disappointed just because I didn't test at all. The whole week leading up to it, I was in Scotland just having the time looking at all the mountains and whatnot, and I had no time to testing. Sure, at night I could have tried some solitary testing, but at the end of the day, after hours of hiking and whatnot, it just wasn't worth it for me to try to test, being a not great state of mind, super drained. And there's just no testing. So that's obviously on my part. I don't regret anything that I did on the trip. So let's get to Lorcana. Before I get to the main meat and potatoes of the episode, I will say just a small little thing that Disney Lorcana is actually going to have a page on Shop Disney where you can buy things. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be actually cards or if it's just going to be accessories or not. I can kind of see it being just like Pokemon Center's website where it's just all Pokemon stuff in general. And with Shop Disney and Lorcana, it's just going to be all Lorcana stuff. There's probably going to be a select few amount of cards you can buy, like booster boxes or starter sets. Maybe the trove, maybe the gift box, and all accessories, which is the 3 deck boxes, the 3 play mats, and the 3 sleeves. I would actually hope that they have specific Lorcana merch, like jackets and shirts and whatnot, but it's probably way too early for them to even start doing that. But I am a sucker for jackets and hoodies, just in general. I would like to add for the Shop Disney page for Lorcana, it was actually revealed that Olaf does have 1 lore pip, which is just nice because that's what I've been saying this whole time, that no matter what type of character it is, what type of Glimmer, it's going to have a lore on it. Now let's get to the main gameplay of Lorcana. During the week of April 10th through the 15th, a ton of stuff happened. I will be using this nice article written by The Gamer that goes over the whole timeline that happened that week during the gameplay reveal. It just so much happened, so many different things dropped that this article from The Gamer is just perfect to show everything in one neat timeline. And I didn't have phone service while I was out. I needed specifically Wi-Fi for the first half of the trip. This was when I was up in the mountains in Isle of Skye and whatnot. And eventually when I came back to our Airbnb, I turned on my phone with the Wi-Fi and I just had a ton of messages, tons of tweets, tons of DMs saying, did you see this? Did you see this? And it turns out that Disney Lorcana dropped the news. And it was unfortunate for them because the gameplay was actually leaked from the Game Trade magazine, issue 279, which is the May issue. But usually magazine issues, you start getting them couple weeks before the actual month issue, and it was just very unfortunate timing that someone or a few people got access to this magazine and started spreading the images and how the game is played. So this was on Monday the 10th, and I don't believe this was the original date that Lorcana wanted to release the gameplay information and rules, but they kind of just went with it. After the magazine was leaked and spreading everywhere, eventually, Disney Lorcana team gave the okay for The Gamer to release their exclusive rules and interview, and they had a full quick guide PDF or images that shows how to actually play the game, and I'll go over that right now. At the top of this quick start rules guide, it shows that there are 3 types of cards, with 1 card having a subtype. The first type of card are characters or character glimmers. Those are the typical cards with the lore, the attack, the defense, or more specifically, it's now called strength and willpower. And the lore is called lore value, but I'm just going to keep saying lore or lore pips. You'll be able to send these characters on quests or into challenges, and some have abilities and some don't. The next card type are items. Items are glimmers that stay in play while you have them, and they have special abilities throughout the play. They could either be exert abilities or they could be passive abilities. Or, for an example, there's a frying pan from Rapunzel that has a banish ability, which you banish the item and it doesn't affect. And I'll get to that card on a future episode. The next card type are actions, and that's the Dragonfire action. Actions give you a one-time advantage and they are discarded right away. Now this comes to the subtype for actions, which are songs. They finally revealed that there are song cards. Songs are a type of action, and you can play one just like any other action by paying its cost and resolving its effect. But you have a second option for these action cards. You're able to sing the card with one of your characters to pay the cost. So for example, One Jump Ahead is a 2-costed action card. But you can have a 2-costed more character exert to sing the song to pay for it for free. Now, I really like this design. Just having any kind of option to pay alternate costs are always going to be a good design for me. Now, I don't know if this is a very new and unique card design aspect, which I doubt it is. But for me, coming from Pokemon, I'm very glad about this type of card. I'm definitely not used to it in my few gameplays that I've done. It just seems really fun that you can do it like this. Although there's definitely going to be plenty of times where I'm going to actually sing these songs. Now let's go over to the parts of the card. I'll go over the terms that Lorcana uses, and then I'll probably change some of the terms, just what I'm used to. With the regular hexagon at the top left is the cost of the card. That's how many inks you have to pay for the card. Then what's called the inkwell icon, which is around the cost, or what we've been calling as the flourish, is you use that as an indicator to dictate if you can put one of your cards face down and put it into your inkwell as ink, which I'll go over that in a second. Then there's the character name, and that the character name is both the full name and the smaller name below it, which helps separate between the different types of characters. Then there's classifications, which is the Dreamborn, Sorcerer, etc. Ink is just the ink symbol. Then there's abilities and effects. Like I said earlier, attack is actually called strength, and defense is called willpower. And then there's the lore, or lore value. The goal of the game is to get to 20 lore. Now let's talk about how to set up. So each player needs to have a minimum of 60 cards in their deck and no more than 2 ink, but you can have a single ink deck if you want. Initially, you start with shuffling your deck, set each lore tracker to 0. You'll draw your hand of 7. And on the original quick start guide, it says to do the altering your starting hand and then flip to decide who goes first. But just recently they tweeted saying that you need to pick who goes first before altering your hand. The player that's going first has to announce how many cards that they're alternating or mulliganing to the bottom of their deck before the other person. You would determine the first player goes first by flipping a coin. You could just do one person heads or tails. You can do high or low, or any way to determine who goes first. Then you draw your hand of 7, like I said. Alternating your starting hand or mulliganing is a pretty common TCG term where you can change your starting hand. A bunch of games do it very differently. For Lorcana, you look at your starting hand of 7 and you select however many you want to keep. You put the rest to the bottom. For an example, I'll keep 2 cards. I'll put 5 to the bottom of the deck. Then I draw 5, and that's my starting hand no matter what after that. And then you shuffle your deck, and then you start the game from there. The person that goes first doesn't draw for the first turn, but after that, every single turn during the ready phase or the beginning phase, you do draw. For the beginning or ready phase, you ready your characters, which ready your exerted characters by turning them upright. You set, which is check effects that happen at the start of your following turn and follow their instructions. And then you draw. You draw a card at the top of the deck, but again, you don't do that if you're going first for the first turn. And it's very nice how they labeled these, which is ready, set, draw. It's the typical red, yellow, green, go, ready, set, go. But with Lorcana being drawing stuff, Disney being drawing, they use the word draw instead, and that's pretty nice. It goes hand in hand with drawing a card and drawing your Glimmer characters. Now comes the main phase. Once per turn, you can put a card face down into your inkwell at any time. Just remember it has to have the inkwell symbol or the flourish. During the main phase, you can do any number of things in any order, depending on the sequencing that you want to happen. You can play a card down by paying their ink. You can exert a character to do an ability. You can use an item ability. You can play an action, put down a character. You can quest, a challenge, etc. Readied cards are cards that are up and down, ready to go, to be exerted. An exerted character are left and right, rotated 90 degrees. And whenever you want to pay an ink or use some character's exerted ability, you need to tap it. But do remember that if it's a character, and you play that character that turn, you have to wait for the ink to dry, so you can't use any exerted abilities. They have to wait a full turn to be able to be exerted, unless there's another card effect that breaks that rule. For example, Stitch's Adoring Fans ability says to exert that character to draw a card, and you can do that because the ability breaks that rule. Like what was said earlier, your inkwell, that's going to be at the bottom of your mat, and everything above that will be your characters and items. And that's a specific rule that you have to have your inkwell below. Inkwell is where you put all your ink cards or your mana cards to be able to play or cast any of your characters or cards. Like previously said, you can put one ink in your inkwell every single turn, but you have to make sure it has the flourish or inkwell symbol on it. There will be a very back and forth thing when deck building on how many non-inkwell cards you'll put in the deck. There have been a few videos out there explaining the maths behind it all, which 20 non-inkable cards is very normal. With the current card pool and how the decks run right now, 12 to 16 is probably the correct amount to use. Until we get more fleshed out decks, you could probably go to that 20 number without having any issues. So let's talk about questing now. There is actually not a lot about questing, just because it's very straightforward and simple. If you want to quest, you have to exert your character, and again, you have to make sure that character is out for a full turn. When you want to quest, you can declare the character and exert it, and you gain that lore value right away. Initially, when I read this, I was not happy. I wanted there to be more interaction. I was definitely very doom and gloom when I initially read this, but the more I had to sit and think about it, the more I'm completely fine with it, especially with one of the characters I'll talk about later, which is Aladdin Heroic Outlaw that has some kind of lore interactions. Now we can come to challenging. So challenging, you can only challenge on your turn on your main phase. So you can never do anything on your opponent's turn other than think about your inevitable victory, which was something Lorcana team actually tweeted about. You also can only challenge exerted characters. When you do declare a challenge, you match up the strength and willpower, and you do damage simultaneously between both characters. So for this example on this quick start guide, there's Captain Hook, Captain of the Jolly Roger, is challenging Donald Duck, Boisterous Fowl. The Donald Duck will do 2 damage to Captain Hook, and Captain Hook will do 3 to Donald Duck. Donald Duck only has 3 willpower, so Donald Duck will be banished. But since Captain Hook has 4 willpower, which means it has 2 willpower left, and it stays in play and it stays exerted as well. And you are actually able to challenge multiple characters into one character. So for example, if this is turned the other way around and you have 2 Donald Ducks and you're going to challenge into a Captain Hook, you first would challenge one Donald Duck into the Captain Hook, and then you challenge a second Donald Duck to Captain Hook. That's not a good trade for you. However, you are doing 2 of your 2 costs for their 1 4 cost, so it actually isn't that bad. And that's pretty much all of the rules. There's not much else to add. Like I said, the minimum is a 60 card deck. Every card in your deck can have a maximum of 4 of. You can have 1 or 2 inks in the deck. The end result for the game is to get to 20 lore, 20 or more lore. And there is one little caveat too, that the next time you would draw a card, if there's 0 cards in your deck, then you will actually automatically lose the game as well. But there's not much draw power right now, and there's definitely not a lot of draw power compared to Pokemon. So most games, you're probably not even going to go below 30 cards left in your deck anyways. It is nice, though, that the Disney Lorcana team has actually had multiplayer in mind from the beginning. They do state that Lorcana is a fun 2-player game, but there's nothing stopping you from playing 3 or more. The game rules remain the same, except at the end of the player's turn, the player to the left goes next. And whenever their ability requires more than one player to do something at the same time, start with the player on the left and proceed going from there clockwise. This is exactly what the designers have been saying this whole time, is the game is easy to learn, but hard to master. And it is starting to show that it is very easy to learn, But with the super small card pool, it's hard to find the quote unquote hard to master right now. But there is a lot of decision making for specifically when or what you want to put in your inkwell. Because if you put something in your inkwell, then that card is just gone for you for that game until you restart. There can be scenarios where you have to put one of your big costed characters in your inkwell, and then later down the line you actually need that card, but you didn't draw another one. That's the very downside, unfortunate, about the mana or inkwell system they have. And that's for sure something that I'm going to have to get used to as well, coming from Pokemon mainly. So both the Game Trade magazine and the Gamer article launched within mid-afternoon on Monday, which I didn't get to see it until a few hours after the fact, just because I was out and about. Then we can fast forward to Wednesday of that week, and that's when the starter deck contents were revealed. And we don't have the full list of what the cards are going to be in the decks, but we have the main two characters on the front, and we actually know what they do, and was shown the damage counters and the lore counters as well. So we revealed all of the starter decks, so we now have Moana, the Mickey Mouse Sorcerer, the Simba, and the Ruby Aladdin. When I did eventually see these main starter deck characters, I honestly thought these characters are pretty good. Like, alone, they're pretty good. They have very unique abilities, and I do hope that this means that these starter decks have an inherent very good value for competitiveness, and that'll help with collecting cards on a cheaper aspect. Next, the following day, there is another article by Polygon, which was an interview with Ryan Miller about the rules, and we got a ton more cards shown off there as well. Also that same morning, there was a bunch of images about organized play that was provided by the comic book interview. And their organized play system is going to have promo cards, which the promo symbol looks like a fast forward button, 2 play buttons. I'm not 100% sure what it is actually going to be, but it is nice knowing that you can easily distinguish what the organized play promos are going to look like. They will have some kind of unique foil. Not sure if it's going to be the same exact foil treatment that will be in the actual sets, or it might be something completely different. I won't talk more about the organized play system. I will do that in the next episode, because it's going to make this episode way too long, especially having to talk about 25 new cards. So I'll split the organized play discussion for next episode. Then also on this Thursday morning, the Disney Lorcana team updated their website to have a /play landing page, and you can find an organized play system thing, and you can also find how to play videos. There's actually 8 videos in total on how to play the game. The total runtime for all of them is 11 minutes and 45 seconds. And that just goes to show that all these little clips shows how easy the game is to learn. We just really need to see how hard it is to actually master this game. Before I get to explaining some of the new cards, I'll do a little self-plug for myself. I've been making a TTS mod or tabletop simulator mod for Disney Lorcana cards, and I'll provide that link below. Here I'll have all cards that have been released so far, which right now, all playable cards, there's 69. Nice. There's 69 total cards you can actually play. 5 of them, we don't have the lore values, but I've just been having 2 lore values for all 5 of them, just to make it super easy, and that does align pretty decently with the current lore amounts on other cards. A couple of them can maybe go down to 1, another one can maybe jump up to 3, but I think 2 is just an overall nice number for these cards. And I'll definitely change it when it comes to figuring out the actual amounts, and I will change those. In the TTS mod that I have made, it will have all 69 cards. There will be also 6 pre-made decks, so that if you want to join with a friend and don't want to try to make a deck, there are some there. They're not perfect decks, obviously, and they're just something that I thought that these might be well balanced with each other. This mod also has 6 table spots. You can do a full 6-player multiplayer game if you really wanted, but most people have been playing on a different mod, which I'll explain in just a second. In addition to that, on the right and left of this the giant table of the 6, there is infinite grab bags to grab more cards if you, for whatever reason, accidentally deleted all the cards. There is the quick rule guide that you can flip back and forth to see which side and if you need a refresher on anything. In addition to that, there is counters and dice to do your lore counting and how much damage is left on any characters. So the next tabletop simulator mod that people have been using has been made by 3VO, or I believe they just called Evo. They made a scripted table that does basically everything automated for you. You can start your opening hands, you can put your mulligan hand somewhere, click a button, it puts it to the bottom, it draws, then it shuffles. There are hotkeys that you can use to exert your characters for quests, and it'll automatically count the lore for it. There's also a ready up button that will unexert or ready all your characters as well. With these two mods, you can pretty much play with anyone right away. They're very nice. I do like the scripted mod by Evo. It has made playing super easy. So I will give some thoughts about how the game is being played right now. And I will say with the small card pool amount, which we actually only have 34% of the actual first set. So that means most of these decks are very unoptimized. There might not even be the quote-unquote design on how the game is supposed to be fully played by the designers, because we're just piecemealing what we have, and everything's just being thrown in as almost a 4 of. At a minimum, you need 15 cards to make a deck times 4. That'll be your 60. Some color combinations have that perfect 15 amount only, and others have a total of like 30 cards in combination. I will say I only have about a dozen games total played. Some of them have just been solitaire playing by myself with 2 different decks. However, there are times where it feels like there's just something missing in the game, and that easily could just be said about the low card pool. There needs to be some kind of board wipe mechanic. There needs to be a lot more spot removal. There are times when if you're behind 6 lore in the game, there's almost no way to come back. There have been times where I was at 1 lore and my opponent was at 9, and I actually came fully back, but it's not that easy. I won't give a full definitive review on how this game is being played until we have at least probably 50% of the cards or 2 full starter deck lists, because then we can actually see or understand what the designers are actually entailing how this game is supposed to be played. Because like I said, right now, everything's just being piecemealed together. Now that I've gone over all the rules and how to play the game, I'll go over a quick Q&A session that the Disney Lorcana team did on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I really thought this Q&A session was going to be some kind of live stream, but they said that it was just going to be in the replies. Twitter is easy to find replies, because there's a specific spot you can go to on someone's page to find the replies. But on Facebook and Instagram, a Q&A session is just not good at all. At least on Facebook, you can actually see if the original poster replied somewhere in the comments. But on Instagram, I think it's almost nearly impossible, and you have to click on every see reply, see comments. That being said, they really didn't even answer much on Facebook or Instagram, so most of these answers were done on Twitter. I'll try to go over them very quickly, just because this episode's already going to be super long and we still need to get to the 25 cards. A lot of people have asked, can either player look at their inkwell once cards are face down? And the answer is no. The inkwell is completely private once they're all face down. And some people like that, some people don't, which I don't fully understand why not. Some people are saying it's bad design, but the whole idea for some of the cards, for example, there are 2 ramp cards. Ramp meaning increase your normal amount of inkwell or inkable cards on a normal turn. So for example, there's a Detective Mickey and a 1 Jump Ahead song that both put the top card from your deck into your inkwell exerted. This means that the downside to ramp any of your inks is not knowing what cards are going to be in your inkwell when you do ramp it. It can be an inkable card, it cannot be an inkable card, just because it's going to be completely random from the top. And that's the whole competitive quote-unquote design aspect of that, is you have to remember in your mind or possibly write down notes We're not sure if you're allowed to, but most games you are allowed to keep notes. So I don't think there's going to be an issue with that. But you will need to remember what you and your opponent have been putting in your inkwell. And then there's the downside of ramp not knowing what has been put there. There have been some arguments that keeping your inkwell private is going to lead to any cheating, but even if it's not, there's still going to be cheating no matter what. If you try to keep your ramped and non-ramped inkwells separate, and one of them public, one of them private, there's still going to be cheating if someone takes a card from their inkwell and put it in their hand. Because no matter what, there's going to be some kind of cheating, no matter if they're always public or they're always private. Not every single game you're going to keep asking, let me see your inkwell, and then it's going to be a he said, she said thing. I think it's both a quote-unquote cop-out to make it easier on people to just keep it private, so there's not going to be any kind of stalling or anything every turn. Just ask, oh, what's in your inkwell? And then you take 10 seconds looking at it. Also with the design of ramping your ink, that you just want to keep it private, just in general. With the week that people had on testing the game before this Q&A, there was a lot of arguments back and forth that if lanterns or any abilities stack. Lantern is an item card for Amber that reads, exert this card and your characters cost 1 less. Some people are in the camp of if you had multiple lanterns and you're trying to play down a 3-costed character, you tapped 2 lanterns, you can play it down for 1 more ink. Other people are saying, no, that next card is always going to be 3-1, 3-1, no matter what, so you still have to pay 2 more ink. However, the Disney Lorcana team has said that yes, any and all abilities can stack. So if you have multiple lanterns, they can stack. If you have multiple Sorcerer Mickeys, it makes your brooms cheaper, which I'll get to that card in a bit. In addition to that, if you had 2 Aurora's Dreaming Guardian on the board, they both give each other ward, so that means your whole board can't be targeted with anything. Now there was a bunch of questions about shift, and I'll just try to rapid fire them all through. When you want to shift onto a character, you keep any and all effects and damages on that character that you're shifting onto. So if their ink has already been dried from the previous turn, you can exert it or do any kind of quest, challenge, etc. If it has 2 damage counters, the new shifted character will also have 2 damage counters. If you shift it onto an exerted character already, it stays exerted and you can't ready it up. This just makes shift really, really powerful, especially with Stitch Rockstar. If you can get a lantern out on turn 2 and then on turn 3, you can shift 4 onto one of your other Stitch characters. In addition to shifted cards, you can shift onto other shift characters if you really wanted to, just to make light of losing board state. Just keep shifting stitches onto each other. Just have a bigger stack of stitches. In addition to that, if any of your shifted characters get banished, get put back into your hand, or get put into your inkwell, for example, there's Let It Go, which is a song that removes a chosen character, puts it into that player's inkwell. So the whole stack of shifted characters goes to wherever that location is being said to go. So banished, shifted characters, both or all, the whole stack goes in the discard. Or if something gets returned to hand by Cruella de Vil, it goes, all pieces go to your hand. There are some kind of, if you do an action but can't do it, the board state gets reverted back. I know in some games, maybe it is in older rules but not current rules, that if you announce some kind of challenge but then you can't actually challenge something, that character just stays tapped or exerted and you can't interact with it anymore. So for an example, if I select one of my characters and I say I challenge, I exert it, I lift my hand, and I say I challenge one of your Pascals, but since a Pascal might have evasion and there's no other valid targets, my character won't stay exerted and it goes back to being readied up. That wasn't a valid move. I am glad that is a thing in this game. Coming from Pokemon, they have a rule that says you can't play a card without an effect. Someone asked the question, if 2 abilities trigger at the same time, which one goes first? And the Lorcana team answered saying, the player that's doing the action, for example, a challenge or an ability, you get to choose which effect triggers when. So for example, if you have a Stitch Out with the Dorian fans and you play Mickey's Magical Broom card, the Magical Broom card has an ability that says shuffle back any card from any discard to their deck. And then Stitch has the Dorian fans ability where you can exert that 2 or less costed card and draw a card. So you have the choice to either draw the card first or put one of your cards back because you really needed some card that was discarded. So you have better odds now to find that specific card. That's pretty much every major aspect that needed to be clarified with this Q&A. I will end that the Lorcana team has been saying a bunch in these replies that there is no limit with this game. So your hand size can be as big as you want it. Your inkwell can be as many as you want. The characters and items on the board can be as many as you want. Your deck size has to be a minimum of 60, but it can be as many as you want. There is no limit to things for this game, which I do like that, but with the caveat that if there is any kind of major organized play system tournament, that they should, and eventually I hope they do, have some kind of deck size limit, maybe 120, just double the amount. Just because I think it was back in 2008 or 2015, something like that. I don't remember when, but there was a major Yu-Gi-Oh tournament where a player had about 2,000 cards in their deck because Yu-Gi-Oh also only had a minimum and no maximum. Eventually that player did have to get DQ'd because they couldn't actually shuffle their deck in the appropriate amount of time. With all rules explained, all rules, questions hopefully clarified, but there's for sure going to be plenty more to come. We can start going over all brand new cards. Like I said, there was about 50 brand new cards revealed since I last did an episode. So I'll be going over half of them now. Next episode, I'll go over the other half. With this half, I'll be going over all Amber, Amethyst, Emerald, and Ruby cards. I will also be going over the ink identities for each color, and we'll start with Amber right now. Amber glimmers are purposeful, patient, and dedicated. They're able to pursue causes and ambitions with single-minded presence. They often work within communities, either from above as a leader or from within as a healer, bodyguard, or just a loyal follower. On this page, you can see the Moana, Stitch, Hades, the King of Olympus, and you can also see a Timon, which looks like a regular Storyborn character. This one is not revealed yet, but I can't wait to see it. So the first Amber card that I'm going to go over is Hades, Lord of the Underworld. It's a 4 cost that's not inkable. It has 3 strength and 2 willpower. He's Storyborn, villain, and deity. With this villain trait, it'll pair perfectly with Hades, King of Olympus as well. It has an ability Well of Souls. When you play this character, return a character from your discard to your hand. In the TCG world, this ability is called Recursion. You bring back something from a different part of the board into your hand. This Hades has 1 lore pip off to the right. It has the pen flavor text separation line, and that reads, production is up, costs are down, the rivers are full, time to talk expansion. This has the rare rarity symbol, which is the Bronze's triangle. The artist is Randy Bishop, and it's set 6 out of 204. Now this card is pretty good with how the game plays right now, having a very small hand size once you start get going. This Hades is easily a +1 card advantage. You have it on the board and it stays there, so when you play Hades by itself, you're at net 0 cards until it gets destroyed, and then you're going to be at a net -1. However, when you play Hades down and you have a character in your discard, you can put that in your hand, and then you'll be a +1 card advantage, compared to another character that won't have any card advantage at all. Next card I'll be going over is Hey Hey, specifically Hey Hey Boat Snack. It's a 1 cost inkable card. It has 1 strength and 2 willpower. It has the traits Storyborn and Ally. It has the ability Support, which is brand new, and that reads, whenever this character quests, you may add their strength to another chosen character's strength this turn. It has 1 lore pip off to the right. Has the book flavor text separation line, which reads, "Sometimes our strengths lie beneath the surface, far beneath in some cases." Moana has actually said this from the movie. It has the common rarity symbol, which is, I've been calling the rock, but it's just the circle. The artist is Jenna Gray, and it has the set number 7 out of 204. I really like this card. One, Hey Hey is just a funny character. It's just a perfect thematic for this card. It is a support character in the movie itself. It gives some comic relief. And that's just kind of perfect card translation for this. Its support ability, I haven't used it too much, just because when I have Hey Hey in a deck, it's more of an aggressive lore ramper, and so I'm not using it to give something more attack. However, now that I keep reading these cards more and more, it'll remind me, hey, there's the second ability. It might be more useful now for me. Next card is LeFou Bumbler. He is a 2-cost inkable card. It has 1 strength and 2 willpower. It has the traits Storyborn and Ally. It has 1 ability, which is Loyal, and it reads, if you have a character named Gaston in play, you pay 1 less ink to play this character. It has 2 lore pip off to the right. It has the pen separation flavor text line, and that reads, you need a good today to be a proper bad guy. It has the uncommon rarity symbol, which I've been calling the book. The artist is Andre Chomak. Sorry if I've mispronounced that. It's the set number 8 out of 204. Right now, we actually don't have the Gaston character card, so this card has just been okay. It doesn't have very good stats for its strength and willpower, but 2 lore is a very good number for a 2-cost character. But if somehow you get this to 1 cost, if you have a Gaston out, it means LeFou is very good. Next card is Mickey Mouse True Friend. He's a 3-cost inkable card with 3 strength and 3 willpower. The attributes for this are Storyborn and Hero. It's a vanilla character with 2 lore pips off to the side. It has the pen separation line, which reads, as long as he's around, newcomers to the Great Illuminary will always get a warm welcome. This Mickey has the uncommon rarity symbol, which is the book. The artist is Dave Bushen. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. It's set number 12 out of 204. What's really nice about this Mickey and other Mickeys is that there's actually going to hopefully be a Mickey in every single ink color. So far we have everything but Steel that has a Mickey, and they just can't leave Steel behind. So for sure there has to be one more Mickey. Like I said, this Mickey is just very vanilla, nothing fancy to it. There are better 3-costed cards that have 3 attack and 3 defense and 2 lore, but sometimes all you need is just a vanilla character to add into your deck. Next card is Minnie Mouse Beloved Princess. She's a 2-cost inkable card. Her strength is 2 and her willpower is 3. She has the attributes Dreamborn and Princess. She's a vanilla character with 1 lore pip off to the side. Has the pen flavor text separation line, which reads, whenever the princess goes, her musketeers are, well, they're around somewhere probably. I do like this flavor text just because it could actually tell us what the Steel Mickey is going to be, and it might be a musketeer Mickey. This Minnie Mouse has the common rarity symbol, which is the rock. The artist is Kendall Hale, and it's set number 13 out of 204. This Minnie Mouse is okay. It doesn't have a lot of lore, but it has a high defense, so any other 2-cost characters might not be able to banish this. However, if you combo this with Moana, which I'll explain in the next card, that if you do go on a quest with this Minnie, get that 1 lore, and then you use Moana's ability to ready up this Minnie, and you can protect it. Or you can use it in a challenge if you really wanted to. Next card is Moana, and this is one of the starter deck cards, and you'll see why I said earlier that the starter deck cards feel very powerful. This card is Moana of Motunui. She is a 5-cost that's inkable. She has 1 strength and 6 willpower. Her attributes are Storyborn, Hero, and Princess. She has 1 ability, which is We Can Fix It. And that reads, whenever this character quests, you may ready your other princess characters. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. This Moana has 3 lore pips off to the side, which, after playing some games, 3 is actually a lot. And you can easily get up to 6 lore with this Moana by questing twice with her on 2 separate turns. She has the book flavor text separation line that reads, I am Moana of Motunui. You will board my boat, sail across the sea, and will store the heart of Tafiti. This Moana has the rare rarity symbol, which is the bronze triangle. The artist is Nicholas Cole, and she set 14 out of 204. Like I just said with Minnie Mouse, since she's a princess, when you quest with Moana, you ready that Minnie Mouse or any of other princesses, and you can either challenge or do nothing and make sure that it's safe, so that on your opponent's turn, they can't challenge that Minnie or any of the other princesses. There are some neat combos you can do with this Moana. For example, if you pair it with Mulan, which is also a princess, and you challenge once into a character to activate Mulan's ability that gives all your other characters 1 lore, you can quest with Moana for 4 since you got that 1 additional one. Then that readies up your Mulan. You can challenge again with that Mulan. If that Mulan does get banished in that second challenge, but if it did banish the opposing character, you get to re-trigger the ability again, so all your other characters will have +2 lore. It doesn't happen that often, but it is very nice because you need to get a 5 drop down and another 5 drop down with other characters on the board. It is very combo centric, but who knows how actually viable it is to pull off regularly. Next character is Stitch New Dog. Now this is the first Stitch that we've seen outside of the Shift Rockstar Stitch that we have. This Stitch is a 1 cost that's inkable. It has 2 strength and 2 willpower. It has the abilities Storyborn, Hero, and Alien. It's a vanilla character and it has 1 lore pip off to the side. It has the book flavor text separation line, which has a conversation between Lilo and David. Lilo says, David, I got a new dog. David says, Oi, you sure that's a dog? Lilo says, he used to be a collie before he got ran over. This Stitch is a common rarity, which is the Rock. The artist is Alex Corsi. This Stitch set number is 22 out of 204. Nothing's fancy about this Stitch. It does have 2 strength and 2 willpower, which is nice for a 1-cost card. But the main point of this card is to either be shifted onto with Stitch Rockstar, or use its low cost to be exerted with if you have a Stitch Rockstar out to be able to draw cards. Nothing fancy, it's vanilla, but it's actually vital to play Stitch. A lot of people did think that the Stitch below the Stitch Rockstar needed to be like a 3 or 2 cost, but it does seem like the designers aren't going to be, if the regular character costs 6, the shift is 4, so the character below that needs to be 3, or 1 below whatever the shift is. It doesn't seem like they're going to be doing that, and it's just going to be more of a design aspect of, if your Stitch Rockstar's ability is all about 2 cost or lower, you're going to want a 2 cost or lower for that shifting ability. And I will spoil for the next episode for some Sapphire cards. There's 2 Auroras that's not the Dreaming Guardian. One is a 2 cost vanilla and one is a 4 cost. It doesn't matter what they are. It's just what kind of design the team wants to do. The next card is an action card and it's Control Your Temper, ! It's a 1 cost that's inkable. And the action reads, chosen character gets -2 strength this turn. This action card is common, which is the rock symbol. The artist is Amber Como. Sorry, I'm not going to say the full name. I don't know how to pronounce that, and I'm horrible at pronouncing names. It is set number 26 out of 204. Now, in my small amount of playtesting that I've done, I haven't really added this card into any deck. Just because with Amber, you want to have a bunch of little tiny guys going for lore, being some kind of an aggressor. So you're not really ever using this ability at all. However, I did just build I did just build an Amber Emerald deck that uses Lady Tremaine to bring back action cards. And so I did add a couple of these into that deck just because there isn't any Emerald action cards. So I had to provide some action cards to it. I don't think the deck is good. I haven't played it at all, but I did make it as one of the pre-constructed decks. I would like to add a little note onto here that originally everyone thought that the set numbers for how the cards are going to be organized was ink colors alphabetized first and then card name alphabetized. At least that was my thought. But now everything's going to be organized with ink color alphabetized, characters alphabetized by name and then their subname. And then after that, it'll be action cards alphabetized and then item cards alphabetized. I believe that is the final order of things, but it might change. We'll see in the future when we get more cards. So this next card is another action card, and it's Just in Time. It's 3 cost, that's not inkable. I will say one thing I forgot to mention with Hades, Lord of the Underworld, is that any of the non-inkable cards are going to be very powerful cards inherently, and that is the downside to adding them to your deck. If for some reason you're in top deck mode trying to get out of something, maybe in your hand you have a powerful card, you just need one more ink, but then you top deck a non-inkable card, you're just kind of done there. You might lose just because of that. Going back to Just in Time action card. Its effect reads, you may play a character with cost 5 or less for free. It has the pen separation line, which reads, the best heroes always arrive at the perfect moment, whether they know it or not. This is the rare rarity, which is the bronze triangle symbol. The artist is Leonardo Giamighelli, I believe is how you say it. It has set number 29 out of 204. This card is pretty good, but it's also okay at the same time. You have to draw it at the perfect time when you want to use it. For example, in an Amber Amethyst deck that's been going around, which has Moana in it, you usually only play this for Moana. However, you have to draw both Just in Time and Moana at the same turn, or in the same hand. And like I said previously, if you have these in your hand and you don't have a character to cast it, then these either just get stuck in your hand or you just play it very inefficiently and you can't actually add any more ink to your inkwell spot because it doesn't have the inkable symbol around it. Next is another action card, which is Part of Your World. It's a 3 cost that's also not inkable. But this is an actual action song, so a character that costs 3 or more can exert itself to sing the song for free. And its ability is return a character card from your discard to your hand. Like I said previously with Hades, this is a recursion card. Some decks originally were built with this having 4 Hades and 4 Part of Your World, but I don't think that's correct. I think that's too many recursion, and you would rather have more stuff on the board before you get your recursion cards. Since this is a song card, it has a different flavor text separation line, and it has a music symbol. So this is an actual quote from a song. And that song reads, what would I give if I could live out of these waters? This card has the rare rarity symbol, the bronze triangle. The artist is Samantha Ardini, and it's set number 30 out of 204. What's really nice about any action song, and also some other cards that use a song lyric, they provide the actual copyright artist information at the bottom right below the Disney Lorcana copyright symbols. It is very nice that they're giving proper credits to both regular artists that are drawing the graphics and any songs as well. Next card is we're getting to the items, and this one is Dinglehopper. It's a 1 cost inkable card, and its ability reads Straighten Hair, which is exert the item, remove up to 1 damage from chosen character. It has the pen separation line, which reads, enjoy the finest of humans' hairstyles. It has the common rarity symbol, which is the rock, and the artist is Airy Willie, and it's set number 32 out of 204. Next card is an item, and it's a lantern, which is 2 cost, and that's not inkable. Its ability is Birthday Lights, and you exert this item, you pay 1 less ink for the next character you play this turn. It has the pen separation line, which reads, "Lanterns fill the sky on one special night, beacons of hope and love." This is the rare rarity symbol, which is the bronze triangle. The artist is also Aaron Willie. It is set number 33 out of 204. Like I said previously, this lantern card is very, very good, and they are stackable. So if you get Stitch New Dog down turn 1, and if you get a lantern down turn 2, and then on the third turn, you play down an inkable card, and if you have Stitch in your hand, you have 3 inks, and then you have this lantern, you exert all 4 of those, and you can play Stitch Rockstar on Stitch New Dog. That does mean your first 3 turns, you're not going to be doing anything. Maybe you can quest with Stitch if your opponent didn't put down any other character, or they only put down a 1 strength character, so they can't banish your Stitch. But getting a Stitch out very early on turn 3 can be problematic for an opponent. Now that's all the Amber cards that have been leaked or revealed. Next is Amethyst. Amethyst glimmers are wondrous, for this is the otherworldly ink of sorcerers, sages, animated objects, and other glimmers who use their special powers to achieve their aims. They are incredibly powerful when they have access to their amazing abilities, but land in trouble if they're stripped off of those or tap into power that they can't control. On this page, you can see Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer, the Elsa Snow Queen, and then there's the Evil Queen, which we do not have that card as well. Now let's start getting to all Amethyst cards that have been revealed or leaked. The first is Magic Broom Buckade Brigade. Try to say that 10 times fast. It is a 2-cost inkable character. It has 2 strength and 2 willpower. It has the attributes Dreamborn and Broom, which we'll get to in a bit when we get to Mickey Wayward Sorcerer. It has the ability Sweep, which reads, when you play this character, you may shuffle a card from any discard into any player's deck. It has 1 lore pip off to the right. It has the pen flavor text separation line, which reads, in the immense story forge known as the Great Illuminary, there's always work to be done. It has the common rarity symbol, which is the rock, and it has 2 artists, which is Dave Arguru and Gaiku Ruva. Those are probably super butchered, and again, I'm very sorry to these individuals. It is set number 47 out of 204, and this card is honestly really crazy good in combo with Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer. I'll give a little teaser to that, and the Mickey gives all your Broom characters 1 less cost. In addition to that, it has an additional ability that says, whenever your Broom characters get banished, instead of putting it into discard, put it into your hand. So you can combo off really well with this Magic Broomstick. Is you can keep challenging your opponent's characters. It gets banished itself. It goes back to your hand. You play it down. You can combo even more if you have White Rabbit's Pocket Watch out. You can pay 1 additional cost to be able to rush in and challenge again. And you can just keep repeating. Pun intended, you can keep sweeping your opponent. It's honestly one of my favorite cards right now in combination with Pascal, which I'll explain later as well. Next card is Maleficent Biding Her Time. She is 1 cost non-inkable. It's 1 strength and 1 willpower. It has the traits Dreamborn, Villain, and Sorcerer. It has no ability, so it's a vanilla character, but has 2 lore pips off to the side. It has the pen flavor text separation line, which reads, one mustn't rush these things, or the greatest plan might come to nothing. This Maleficent has the rarity rare symbol, which is the bronze triangle. The artist is Grace Tran, and it's set number 48 out of 204. Now this card is very, very good if you always get it turn 1 and turn 2. If you're starting going first and you have this in your opening hand, if your opponent doesn't have any burn spells, for example, cannons from the steel ink color, you can easily get 4 lore with just 1 Maleficent being your first quest and your opponent might not have a character down again, so you can quest again on your second turn. And that 4 lore gives you 20% of your win condition going to 20 lore, just off of a 1 costed card. It's good super early game, and it's very good late game as well, just to kind of checkmate your opponent, having one of these down in a Pascal, or 2 of these down, or etc. Since it's going to be readied up and your opponent can't challenge it because it's not exerted, you kind of set up at, oh, I'm at 17 lore, I need 3 more. I have a Pascal and a Maleficent readied up, you can't do anything. Which leads to the problem of the game right now, meaning there does need to be some kind of board wipe or more spot removal. The next card is finally Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer, which is a 4 cost that's inkable. It has 3 strength and 4 willpower. It has the traits Dreamborn and Sorcerer. It has 2 abilities, like I said. The first one is Animate Broom. You pay 1 less ink to play broom characters. And like I said previously during the Q&A, all abilities stack. So if you have 2 of these Mickeys out, all of your brooms are free costed. Right now we only have 1 broom character. That's a 2 cost. But I believe there's going to be more broom characters per some tweets that Lorcana has said. The next ability is Ceaseless Worker, which reads, whenever one of your broom characters is banished in a challenge, you may return that card to your hand. So that's the full combo of challenge, put back in your hand, challenge, put back in your hand. This Mickey has 2 lore piffs off to the side. It has the pen separation line, which reads, he always goes for the clean sweep. This card is a super rare rarity, which is the silver diamond one. The artist is Nicholas Cole, and it's set 51 out of 204. Any deck with this Wayward Sorcerer Mickey card, I think I'm going to absolutely love, just because you can keep playing, you can control the board however you want with it. Next card is Pascal, but I will actually leave this Pascal Rapunzel's companion at the very end for the Glimmer Gallery section. So the actual next card is Yzma Alchemist. It's a 2 cost that's inkable. It has 2 strength and 2 willpower. She has the attributes Dreamborn, Villain, and Sorcerer. Her ability is You're Excused, which reads, whenever this character quests, look at the top card of your deck, put it on either the top or the bottom of your deck. It has 1 lore pip off to the side. It has the pen separation line. It reads, when I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. It has the common rarity, which is the rock. The artist is Haji Joes. Again, I'm completely sorry. It has the set number 60 out of 204. I like this card, but it can be kind of very underpowered just because there are a lot of 2 strength characters out there. So you quest once with this and then it's just going to get challenged and banished right away. However, the ability, a lot of people from Magic are just going to say, why don't you just call this Scry 1 and just ignore all the text and actually label what Scry is, which is exactly this ability. You look at the card, either keep it on top or put it at the bottom. There's so many words here that you could just give it one ability name, but maybe there's not going to be a lot of this ability, or they don't want to use Scry and they didn't know how to actually name it differently. I'm not 100% sure why they actually labeled it fully out like this and didn't give it a keyword. This Yzma does pair very well with a Hercules card that has a new keyword, which is Bodyguard. Bodyguard is very similar to Taunt from Hearthstone. If a bodyguarded character is exerted, all challenges have to go towards an exerted bodyguard character until they're all gone, and then you can start challenging other exerted characters. So if you do have a bodyguard character up and you have an Yzma, you can easily use Yzma's ability multiple times to be able to dig through your deck correctly to find the specific card you need. Next card is just an update to the Wardrobe Bella's Confidant. Throughout all the articles or the videos about the rules and gameplay, we were shown that the lore count for the wardrobe is 1. Now that's all the Amethyst cards. We can go to Emerald cards. There's actually not a lot of Emerald cards, so let's go by quick, but let's start with the Emerald Ink Identity, which reads, Emerald glimmers are flexible, gifted with the ability to adapt to changing circumstances. They are never caught off guard. quick thinking but not necessarily book smart. They navigate their environment, whether physical or social, natural or artificial, with ease. On this page, we know all of these cards, but they do have the Emperor from Emperor's New Groove. And I can't wait to have this card, because that's one of my favorite movies. The first card we can discuss is Cheshire Cat Not All There. This was originally spoiled on 1st of April, which was April Fool's Day. The original gift that this was revealed on was completely blank, no card, and then eventually it did reveal the Cheshire Cat and all its abilities. It was a very nice joke, but non-joke reveal. Cheshire Cat Not All There is a 3-costed inkable card. It has 0 strength and 3 willpower. Its attribute, just as Storyborn, nothing fancy. It has the ability Lose Something ? Which reads, when this character is challenged and banished, banish the challenging character. It has 2 lore piffs off to the right. It has the book flavor text separation line, which reads, you may have noticed that I'm not all there myself. We do not have any artist, rarity, symbol, or set number for this card yet, just because that was a normal reveal and it didn't have that information below. This card is honestly pretty amazing, especially that when it got revealed having 2 lore pips. Like I said in previous episodes, Emerald is the very tempo/anti-tempo deck. It messes up with your opponent. There's times where this Cheshire Cat gains 2 lore and then gains 2 lore again before getting banished. There are times where a 4-cost or 5-cost character has to just one-shot this character, but it's not always the case. Sometimes your opponent lets it quest 2 times and then it uses something very small to challenge it just because there's no strength on this Cheshire Cat. So any challenge into it doesn't matter at all, and most of the time characters that are lower attack finish it off. Next and final Emerald card is our Emerald Mickey, which is Mickey Mouse Steamboat Pilot. It's a 3-cost and it's inkable. It has 3 strength and 4 willpower. It has the attributes Storyborn, Hero, and Captain. It's a vanilla character and it has 1 lore. You might see that this is exactly like the Wardrobe Bella's Confidant. Has the same exact cost, stats, and lore as well. As the pen separation flavor text line that reads, on rivers throughout the Inklands, the little steamboat's whistle answers the cherry tunes of its pilot. As the common rarity symbol, the artist is Juan Diego Leon. It has the set number 89 out of 204. Now, again, this is just a very vanilla character, nothing fancy with it, but it is a Mickey in a different color. Now let's get to the final ink color for this episode, and that's Ruby. Ruby's color identification reads, Ruby glimmers are daring. They use their speed and bravery to defy the odds. They are often warriors, explorers, and daredevils. On this Ruby ink page, you can see that there's 101 Dalmatians dog, which I believe this one's Pongo because it has the red collar. That's the only card we don't know from this page. We have 4 cards to go over for Ruby, and then we'll be done going over all cards for this episode. Its first card is the actual card that we'll get in one of the starter decks, and that's Aladdin Heroic Outlaw, or sometimes it's called Heroic Bandit, just because of a translation, I believe from German or French. That being said, I believe the true actual card name is going to be Heroic Outlaw. It is 7 cost that's inkable. It has 5 strength and 5 willpower. The attributes are Floodborn and Hero. Since this is a Floodborn, it's Shift, and its Shift number is 5. It has the ability Daring Exploit, which reads, during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you gain 2 lore, and each opponent loses 2 lore. It has 2 lore pips off to the right. It has the super rare rarity, which is the Silver Diamond. The artist is Nicholas Cole, and it's set number 104 out of 204. Now, this card is honestly super amazing for both its ability in the deck itself and then design-wise for the game as a whole. And I hope we have more abilities like this for any kind of lore interaction. I'm not sure if it's going to be just Ruby has this kind of lore interaction. Maybe 2 colors or 3 colors might have it. But any way to stop your opponent from gaining lore or lower their lore amounts is honestly going to be great, just because you can never stop your opponent from gaining lore on their turn. This is one way to combat that for being super one-sided and gives you a chance to come back. A lot of the times, if your opponent is able to get out an Aladdin super early, it swings the game super hard, unless that opposing opponent has one way to remove it right away. The next card is Donald Duck Boisterous Fowl. It's 2 cost inkable. It has 2 strength and 3 willpower. Its only attribute is Storyborn, and it's a vanilla character. It has 1 lore pip off to the side. It has the pen flavor text, which reads, "Who you callin' boisterous buster?" And then you have the Donald Duck with its little fisticuffs up. It has the uncommon rarity, which is the book symbol. The artist is Kenneth Anderson, and it's set 108 out of 204. There's nothing fancy about this. It's just a super vanilla character. That being said, the 3 willpower is very good. If you're facing any other 2-costed characters, majority of the time, your 2 strength will banish the opposing character, but their strength probably won't be enough to banish yours. The 3 is a very key number. The 3 is a very key willpower amount between 2 and 4 costed characters. Next card is Goofy Daredevil. It's a 5 cost that's inkable. It has 3 strength and 4 willpower. The attributes are Dreamborn and Hero. It has the evasive ability, and since this was a normal Ravensburger Disney Lorcana reveal, it does not have the lore pips, but I've been saying that this is about 2 lore. This is very similar to when the Tigger reveal. It's just showing that Ruby is the powerful, evasive, get your lore in right away. It has the pen separation flavor text line, which reads, "Sometimes you gotta give it a old jump in a hyuk." There is no rarity symbol, but on the tweet that revealed this card, they did say that the artist is Kenneth Anderson, and there is no set symbol as well. Nothing to say about this card yet. I haven't played with it too much. It's just as in the TCG terms, they call them French vanillas, which is no fancy ability, but it has 1 single keyword on it. And last but not least is our final card that we're revealing today, and that is Scar Fiery Usurper. It's a 4 cost with inkable. It has 5 strength and 3 willpower. It has the attributes Dreamborn and Villain. This is also another vanilla character, and it has 1 lore pip. It has the pen flavor text separation line, which reads, "Consumed by the flames of ambitions." It has the common rarity symbol, which is the rock. The artist is Amber Coma. Again, I can't say that word, and I'm very sorry. It is set number 122 out of 204. Nothing's very fancy about this card, but it is nice having a high attack cost, and you might actually need this Scar Fiery Usurper to take out, for example, the Aladdin Heroic Outlaw, or any other high attack costed characters. With the news finished, I can now get to the Glimmer Gallery section. If you don't know, the Glimmer Gallery is a segment that I'll go over a new Glimmer character card and describe the movie or media that they're from. I'll provide movie or show details, trivia tidbits, and finally go over what the card is within Disney Lorcana, and what kind of decks they can work with. This week's episode, I'll go over the card Pascal Rapunzel's Companion, which is from the movie Tangled. Tangled was released on November 24th, 2010. It has a runtime of 100 minutes. It had an initial budget of $260 million, and it grossed worldwide $592 million. It has a tomato meter of 89% and an audience score of 87%, which I think that's very fair, but although Tangled is definitely a top 3 movie for me. Here's the Tangled movie summary. Tangled is a 2018 American animated musical film produced by Walt Disney Animation Studios. This film tells the story of Rapunzel, a young woman with long, magical hair, who has been locked away in a tower by a wicked witch named Mother Gothel. When a charming thief named Flynn Rider stumbles upon her tower, Rapunzel sees an opportunity to escape and fulfill her lifelong dream of seeing the floating lanterns that appear every year on her birthday. Along the way, Rapunzel and Flynn encounter a cast of quirky characters and face numerous obstacles, including Mother Gothel, who will stop at nothing to keep Rapunzel locked away for her magical hair. Here are a few trivia tidbits about Tangled that I think everyone should know. Tangled is the 50th animated feature film from Walt Disney Animation Studios. This film was originally titled Rapunzel, but was later changed to Tangled to appeal to a broader audience. Tangled was the first Disney animated film to be released in 3D. Rapunzel's hair was a technical challenge for the animators. They had to create a new software program called Dynamic Wires to allow the movement of Rapunzel's long hair. Tangled won the Academy Award for Best Original Song for the song I See the Light, which honestly really is a good song. The film inspired a TV show titled Tangled the Series, which premiered in 2017, which I haven't seen any of it, so I have no clue how good it is or how okay it is being like super Disney-fied. Tangled was the most expensive animated film ever made by the time of its release, surpassing the previous record holder, its own Disney film, which was up in 2009. The kingdom in Tangled is named Corona, which means crown in Spanish, and is a nod to Rapunzel's hair being her crowning glory. Maximus the horse was originally going to be a silent character, but the animators found that they could create a lot of humor by giving him expressive facial expressions and body language. At the end of the movie, during Rapunzel and Flynn's wedding, there's a cameo by Eugene Fitzherbert and Rapunzel's parents from the movie Frozen. Now let's talk about Pascal, Rapunzel's companion card. This card was originally shown on the Disney Lorcana How to Play page on one of the videos. I can't remember which how-to video it was on though. Let's start with the actual card. So the full name, like I said, is Pascal, Rapunzel's companion. It is a 1 cost that is inkable. It has the inkwell symbol. Pascal is 1 toughness and 1 willpower. Pascal has the traits Storyborn and Ally. He only has 1 ability, which is Camouflage, and it reads, while you have another character in play, this character gains evasive. Only characters with evasive can challenge them. Pascal has 1 lore pip off to the side. It has the pen flavor text separation line, which reads, a true friend is always there for you, whether you can see them or not. The artist is Brian Wise. Pascal is set 153 out of 204, and it has the uncommon rarity, which is the book symbol. With the current card pool being very small, it's kind of hard to handle a Pascal, even multiple Pascals. So for example, if a Pascal is on the board with another Pascal, they both give each other the evasive ability. And so neither of your non-evasive opponent's characters can actually challenge it. And it could easily give yourself 2 lore every single turn unless it's answered. And like I said, with the small amount of card pool we have right now, there's not many answers for it. For example, Steel has 2 action cards that have direct damage, one that can deal 2 damage and one that can deal 3 damage, which I'll talk about in the next episode. Those 2 cards are ways that a Steel deck can answer multiple Pascals. However, one of the Steel cards is an actual 3-costed card, and that's not a good tempo play to use a 3-cost to remove the 1-costed Pascal. There are a few other ink colors that can deal with this Pascal, but they can't be great. Sometimes you have to have a bigger board than your opponent to deal with a Pascal. Unless there's 2 of them, then you have to actually have the direct counter to it, which is either the action burn spells from Steel, or you can have your own evasive characters, which Ruby has. Ruby also has Dragonfire. But again, that's going to be a 5-costed action card to this 1-costed Pascal. There's a couple other ones, with one being Simba from Steel. Has an ability Pounce, which gains evasive on your challenging turn. And I believe there's another card that also has that. Yes, the Robin Hood from Sapphire as well has evasive on your turn. This Pascal, Rapunzel's companion, is a pretty good card, especially if you start it in the beginning of the turn and you can just keep questing easily 3 times with it. And since questing is instant, after waiting the full turn for the ink to dry, if you have it in the late game, you can easily gain a few lore to finish off your 18 or 19 points to get to the 20. This Pascal can combo really well with Stitch Rockstar, which has the Dorian Fans ability. When you play a 2-costed character or less, exert it to draw a card. In the current game right now, with the small limited card pool, you have very low hand sizes once you start playing a card a turn in your Inkwell and then a card for your turn to play. You're drawing 1 card a turn, but then you're playing down 2 almost every other turn. And with this Stitch and this Pascal, if you have just both of them on the field, you'll tap your Pascal to draw the card, and then your Pascal will be safe for the next turn. So then you can start questing with it. Right now, the best deck for Pascal is probably the Stitch, Moana, Amber, and Amethyst deck right now. The deck has the Moana combo with princesses, and then has the Stitch to combo with all your little guys drawing to have a bigger hand and a wider board. Although my favorite right now with Pascal is actually an Amethyst and Steel version. Steel has, like I said, the 2 direct deal damage cards, and it has a lot of challenging. So it has a unique back and forth gameplay about controlling the board and then swinging with your evasive Pascal or your other protected characters. As of right now, this Pascal honestly is probably my favorite card, both being it was actually a card I wanted from the beginning with Disney Lorcana being announced, aside from Wall-E, which is Pixar, and that's probably not going to be a thing for a couple of years. Pascal was my number 1 character for being a card for Disney Lorcana. I can't wait for more cards to see how this Pascal, Rapunzel's companion, actually evolves within the game. If it still stays pretty good, or if there's more and more removal, and it might not actually be that good. With that to end, thank you for joining me on this Enlightened Illumineers podcast episode. I hope you have enjoyed this episode and you come back for more. You can find me personally at Cabled on all social media platforms, and you can find the podcast at EN Lumineers on all social media platforms. If you have any questions or comments or any feedback, please @ me or the podcast. My name is Trey Cabled. I hope I have enlightened you with all Disney Lorcana news, and there'll be plenty more to come.